As we go live in 3, 2, 1. What's up, guys? Welcome back to In the Closet. And today we're very special, as they have all been special. It's me, by myself, in the closet, alone. Truly a 2024 tale. But no, I know we've been a little bit away from the studio in the past few days. The bathroom was unfortunately being cleaned. This closet was also being cleaned. But now it's ready for the next episode. And the other two were unable to join me today because they're currently being ball chomped in Guantanamo Bay. Which, today's soap of the day is dog drool soap. So, like, when you got them balls and they just got them bite marks on it, and like dissolves like. If you want the bite marks to go away, you're going to use dog drool, especially German Shepherd dog drool soap. You rub it on and it disappears. So we're talking about Guantanamo Bay. You might be thinking we're talking about terrorism, and you'd be right, we're talking about terrorism. But this episode's a little weird. I was on iFunny, yes, iFunny, and I saw something about a woman named Aafia Siddiqui, and she's also known as Lady Al Qaeda. And I was incensed by this. I was reading it, like, this is a farce. This is a trial. There's so many bad things that happened to her. This is horrible. But then I read the Wikipedia article. Well, I will say, the Wikipedia article does seem a little bit biased. But I also was reading through a few more details, and I'm like, okay, some of these details are verifiable and have been chosen to be proven true. So it's like, this is going to be a weird one, because I don't know what stance I'm going to take with this. So I just had to make it a closet episode instead of a bathroom episode, since it's more of some... To explain a little bit more, closet episodes are episodes where there's no intended chosen path. It's a break from format. It's like a bathroom episode, but we don't really know what we're doing with it. We don't have a point to make. Or it's going to be shorter. This one might be shorter. And also, I'm by myself, and I don't know the point I'm trying to make about this. There's no sociological viewpoint that we can take on this. I'll try to find a few. Oh, and also our pantry episodes, which I don't even think we've uploaded one at this point, are basically just breaking news. So, Aafia Siddiqui, to those of you who don't know, she was born in Pakistan, and then came to the U.S. There's a lot of backstory. Point is, she is a fucking PhD, bro. She went to MIT, and she's known for doing charity work. She had kids. Yeah. Okay. Point is, what I'm trying to get at. She's extremely smart, extremely charitable, and religious. She cared about her religion and then made often moves to spread it forward. As some people might know, in the Islam religion, they have this creed where it's all about trying to either convert people or teach about the religion. A little bit like Christianity and how they have the Crusades. The Islamic word for crusade is jihad. So basically jihad, which is often used for terrorism, and in terrorism, like the jihadi war or the jihadists, it literally just means crusaders. And if we want to talk a little bit about Eurocentrism, the idea of crusade is almost noble, so it's like a big deal. It's like, oh, it's a nobility, it's an old ancient practice, it's like a knight. While you hear jihad and jihadi, you think dirty, slimy terrorists, and to be fair, they are very slimy. I really can't imagine when you're surrounded by that much soot and that much pain and anger at women that you have any idea about trying to smell nice. So that one's fair. But crusader and jihadist, you think a different thing when you see both of them, but they are the same thing. They're spreading a religious war, not even a religious war, a religious message through methods that are available to them. For some people, it's violence. For some people, it's scholarshipism. I'll be pausing a lot, unfortunately, because without someone to bounce my ideas off, it's just me monologuing. You've caught me monologuing. But that is the difference between the two. That's, you can kind of see my bias in this, which is that when I originally read it, I thought it was something that was strong injustice. But reading the Wikipedia, I'm starting to question that a little bit more. So, what it basically boils down to is she was in Pakistan with her family I'm going to start with the iFunny version, the incensed version that got me on this one. So, she was in Pakistan, and she was abducted and kidnapped, but with her 3 kids. And to this day, by the way, the youngest kid still has not been found. Like, no idea where that kid is, and we're pretty sure that they're dead, which is incredibly sad. Like, imagine knowing that your youngest child... I haven't even gone to everything she went through, but, like, on top of that, doesn't know where the kid is, will never know where the kid is, no one knows where the kid is, and that's devastating. And she, for 100%, as well as the child's father and the child's siblings, are 100% heartbroken over that. And that's just to add on to all the tragedy that happened. When they were kidnapped, she mentioned that she saw a white woman. And, as you might expect, by me pointing this out, it's probably thought to be a United States service officer, because the United States, this was, by the way, this was 2003. And if you know what happened in 2001, we'll never forget, but 2 years later, or within those 2 years, she's been investigated because of, well, she's a scientist, she is a biologist, she was told to be someone who is both a financier of terrorism as well as a chemical weapons creator. But we'll get to that. That's more of what I read afterwards and made me kind of question whether or not the iFunny version was biased in a way I was closer to be biased for. But after she was kidnapped, she was sent to a detention center and separated from her kids, where she was kept for years. And then I think the prisoners would recount hearing her wail that night for her children. She was tortured physically, mentally, sexually, as also just it's disgusting to be sexually tortured of the woman, because you know for a fact that no one involved thought of making it about their pleasure. They mainly just thought about inflicting damage psychologically, and that's I don't know what it feels like. I hope I never do, and I hope I never have to have someone close to me experience that. But the best way I can think of that is as if someone was I feel like it would be as if someone was reaching inside of you and ripping out pieces of you and then taking it with them. Like a hollow, empty void, from what I can recount of other people, what they said. She was considered a shadow prisoner, where she wasn't technically in custody, but that's actually worse because they don't know that you're there. People can't know to free you, and it's not anything known. And then I forgot what happened exactly, but for some reason, I think they understood that they couldn't keep her, and then there was a lot of dissension growing in Pakistan where she was kept, and then she was all of a sudden just transported to the street with ripped clothing, her kids, and it's said that maybe she was expected to die, but she went to the nearest mosque where they took refuge of her. And then later on, I believe the United States government picked her up and then took her to the U.S. And she had okay, this is one thing I'm sure of. That trial was 100% false. And even if it wasn't false, if there was good evidence for it, it definitely broke a few rules that was allowed. For one thing, most of the time, to those who know, jury are not allowed to read media, and they're not allowed to watch anything like news, because it could influence their opinion of the trial. Not only was the jury in this trial allowed to do so, they were allowed to walk around and really had no restrictions on what they were viewing on or what they were doing. They were actually given newspapers with the headlines that said Lady Al Qaeda, and then all the things that she allegedly did. Now bear in mind, the whole point of this is so that only what's presented in the trial, what's presented as evidence, can be taken into account, not the allegations, because allegations can be anything. It can be just said or speculated, or even just people mishearing stuff about one person and putting on another person. That's why you're not allowed to allow this to happen. However, it was encouraged because, again, the jury was given newspapers. By the way, that is false news. I don't actually know if they were given it, but that some source made it evident that they were given it. So someone fact check me. If I'm wrong, don't be surprised. If I am right, also don't be surprised. Because, actually, no, be more surprised, actually, if I'm wrong, or if I'm right. But regardless, even then, the jury did not find her guilty on any terrorism charge. That being said, she was taken to a federal prison and given a sentencing that was way higher than what she was supposed to be. Let me see. What did she get convicted of? Attempted murders and other felonies. Doesn't say exactly what it was. Let me see here. References. Criminal complaint and trial. Charges. Steal criminal complaint. Assault with a deadly weapon and attempting to kill a United States. Oh yeah, so, I forgot to mention. When she was picked up by the U.S. military, apparently, so here's what it said in the iFunny thing. It was saying that she was simply looking out from behind a curtain because she heard people call her name. Now, soldiers, and only the U.S. side, only the U.S. soldiers that were sent there to get her, said that, quote, she picked up a gun and started spraying and hit one of them. However, they pointed out that all the bullet marks came from her, but there was clearly some bullet marks on the wall that was already there. So that one's a little iffy, a little shoddy, and as you can imagine, a bunch of only the U.S. soldiers saying, "Hey, she shot at us," and none of them knew what was happening. All of them apparently also remembered differently. Some people said she was standing, some people said she was sitting, some people said she had a handgun, some people said she had a rifle. A little strange that the U.S. would allow them to have so many different alternating opinions, especially if they did carry this out as a hit piece. But regardless, she was shot in the chest and taken back to the U.S. And all the other witnesses said that she was simply peeking out from behind the curtain when she got shot. That was something. So those were the charges, that she shot a U.S. officer, an unidentified, unnamed officer. And a fun fact, it said that she was a United States Army captain. Now, of course, I think it's smart that they can't say corporal, because then it would be pretty obvious which one it is. Because captain is high enough up there to have a good enough charge, but also low enough that there could be at least one or two of them, so no one knows who it is. A little bit of my bias showing. Regardless, before her trial, or before her sentencing, she said to the judge, "Thank you, and I forgive you for what you will do to me." And the judge even said, "I wish all people I was trying with judging me." And she said, "Only God can judge me now. Thank you for giving me my second education. My first was at MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And now I had one from another MIT, the Manhattan Institute of Theatrics." Which, that's pretty fucking based, regardless of what she did. That's a base statement. Thanking them and saying, anyway, that is still based. And so when she was sent to not to Guantanamo, where was it? When she was sent to, let's see here. When she was sent to the Metropolitan Detention Center, Brooklyn, she's now being held at the Federal Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas, a federal prison for female inmates with special health needs. However, when she was first sent to the Metropolitan Detention Center, she was first of all mixed in with the men, which, first of all, I think anyone understands that that's just not a good idea. And so, as you can imagine, it was not a good time for her. She was also given terrorist provisions, even though she wasn't found to be guilty of terrorist provisions, which also does not contribute to the idea that it wasn't a hit piece engineered by the U.S. government. She wasn't allowed to see, her family wasn't allowed to visit her. She wasn't allowed to consume media. She wasn't allowed to be outside at all, which, another level of psychological torture to add to the list. And she's at a place for mental health, as you can probably imagine, if one of your kids is still missing and everything that you went through is happening in the country that you live. By the way, she's a U.S. citizen, by the way. She's a U.S. citizen. Who did this to you? So you can kind of feel like you have no place. Like, you can't. Okay, so that's kind of her story of why I thought, we got to talk about her and her tragedy. Now, listen to the Wikipedia page. First of all, one part of the beginning is very biased, where they just mention stuff that just had nothing to do with her, but definitely makes you think she's a bad person. So definitely biased, and so I'm a little bit worried about that. But some of the stuff also makes me wonder. Like, it was talking about her, what's it called? It was talking about a person she was married to, and how he was a little concerned about the amount of radicalism that was happening by her, and that he told her to move the family to, like, after 9/11, she said, "We're in danger," and then, let's be honest, we all kind of understand why you'd be in danger at that point, but she wanted to move the family to Pakistan and close to Afghanistan, close to where the Taliban is, and then he apparently was not happy with that, and then, he was also a U.S. citizen, and he had, backed all this up that this was said. So that makes me sort of question, like, oh, okay, so there was some legitimate concerns about terrorism on her part. And then once she was in Afghanistan, she was apparently doing a few things. I will admit, at this point, it's less of a terrorism thing I'm thinking about, but more so I understand completely helping people out and kind of subverting the U.S. government. It's kind of like everyone's favorite pastime. She was like helping people get citizenship in interesting ways by setting up names and houses and saying that they lived in America when really they lived somewhere else to obtain government benefits. No, not government benefits, but like to obtain citizenship and to apply for certain uh, things. I really should read that, but I'm not going to. But regardless, she also was giving medical attention to, Taliban members, which I can't really defend that. I can kind of, the only thing I can point out sociologically would be, it's members of her community. True, they're doing something wrong, but she just wants to help. She's might be even saying, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. Being a jihadist, taking on America. America has done a lot of good. You shouldn't attack them. Which, if she was saying that, I guarantee you she's probably eating her words now after what happened. Especially if it's false. If it isn't, then I don't know. But yeah, that's a little questionable. But then it also did say she was helping setting up homes and financing for members of known terrorist cells. So that kind of made me question that too. If she was had her names on houses that was also co-owned by jihadists, well-known terrorists, then that's also very damning. Again, I'm going to make excuses for her because while this article did make me think there probably is more to it, the positive version of this, if she was not trying to cause trouble, let's be honest, the evidence does point to her probably being a terrorist at that point, especially if it's right and verified. But if she isn't, then the explanation I can give would probably be just more of the same of, hey, help out your family, help out your community. We're going through a rough time. It's more important than that than taking care of yourself. Now, I'd argue you should probably know that this shit makes you look really suspicious, so you probably shouldn't do that. Whether or not she did it because she believed in the mission of the Al Qaeda, or whether or not she just wasn't thinking well enough about herself. Because, she was radicalized in Islam. She was very, very religious. So there is a chance that she was just blinded, but not blinded. She was choosing to help people due to their religious compatibility, and she didn't agree with the terrorism part. Which, isn't really much to say, because if you're still helping terrorists, you're still helping terrorists, whether or not you feel about it. But I think it's important to kind of understand mindset, and that it wouldn't... I'm not going to take a sociological stance on this, especially because I don't even know. So yeah, I'm not really sure. She was definitely treated wrong by the U.S. government. She was definitely abducted by the U.S. government, which they kept denying, which also makes the U.S. government look suspicious, so they might have been hiding something. So that might be some evidence that she actually was a martyr rather than an actual terrorist cell. But there's also evidence that's enough to show that perhaps she was involved in some type of ill doing to American soldiers and American lives and American idealism. I live here, I love it here, and I would hate if any terrorists had anything to do with any terrorism here, which sounds like I'm trying to cover my tracks for being a terrorist, but I'm not. I really do love it here, and I think we all know when you were in school, you would imagine if a terrorist came in right now, I'd take him down, I'd destroy him. Although, and I had the same thing. I'd always imagine Al Qaeda or ISIS breaking in, and I'm like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to throw them all against the wall, yada yada yada. I've had daydreams about beating up ISIS and terrorists. So trust me, I'm as American as you know it. But for sure, there's definitely the U.S. having a little bit of a heavy hand in something that's not quite on the up and up. Whether or not regardless of what she did. Well, not regardless. Obviously, if there's proof, if there's trouble, that's a problem. But even if she was guilty, she wasn't charged with rule of law, which is what the U.S. stands for. This might surprise you, me, and most people, but unfortunately, even terrorists get human rights, which is a good policy to have, I think. The whole point of capture is to isolate them and stop them. The extra effort to torture them is kind of a little much. I can understand if individual people have like grudges, and that's definitely goes down, but for it to become easy to do, mandated, and even part of the plan, that's a little too evil for me. Allow karma to catch up to them. Don't allow your own heavy-handed thumb on the scale. So now you can see why we don't do solo podcasts. I'm the most depressing member, and I'm the only one who will do the solo ones. So make sure to wash your hands, wash, swipe. Make sure to wash your hands, wash, swipe, and flush, and wipe and stuff in that order. And see y'all next time. Peace.